Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today, we're going to be going through our Week 5 IDP waiver wire ads.
Hike!
All right, Joe, so let's talk about the first player. That's going to be defensive end edge rusher Kyle Van Noy. That's right, the 10-year experienced veteran. Guys that's been on a hot streak, Joe. Hard not to have this guy. He's had 2 sacks each of the last 3 games. Really dominated against the Bills, unfortunately, for my Bills there. Forced fumble, 2 sacks, 2 solo tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 3 QB hits. Guy was really all over the field. Right now, he's rostered in 20% of leagues, from what we can tell. Joe, would you be going after this guy? He's had 3 weeks. That's pretty consistent. Ravens defense seems to be a little bit more feisty. Are you spending FAAB on him?
Yeah, I think I would, especially because 2 sacks in 3 straight games. That pace is pretty crazy. Don't expect that to keep going, but maybe I do think though that there's potential for him to at least maybe being able to get a sack, and honestly, that's what you really want from your defensive end players. But he will be kind of that sack or bust type of player because he hasn't really gotten a ton of tackles, and sacks count as tackles. So basically, in the last 2 games, he's just gotten the 2 sacks. So, but I would be willing to throw some FAAB on him, though.
Yeah, because we talked about Oweh back in week 3, and then you have they rotate, so they've got Ojabo in there, and they've got that Tavis Robinson guy. I would say of the bunch, Van Noy's honestly looking like the guy you want in that Ravens pass rush room, and whatever reason the Ravens pass rush always does pretty good. So I would say he's definitely worth rostering. I would say he's worth probably about 5% of your FAAB, I'd say, to get a guy like him.
Yeah, I think 5% is fair. I probably wouldn't exceed that amount. I think I agree with you on the price there, and Van Noy's just that sneaky older veteran player. He's got that feel, like he was able to kind of feel that and instinctually feel that trick play that the Bills were trying to do, that he got the strip sack on. So just plays like that, being that wily vet certainly helps him.
Are you enjoying this episode so far? Well, if you are, subscribe to our YouTube channel, smash that like button, and hit the notification bell for upcoming videos. We do videos throughout the year, so you're not going to want to miss what we have in store. So the next player we're going to be talking about is defensive tackle Maliek Collins of the San Francisco 49ers. He was traded to those 49ers. And now that Javon Hargrave is no longer there, he's going to be, looks like, probably out for the year. I believe he had a triceps injury. He's going to be going on IR. He now is the number 1 guy in that interior defensive pass room for the 49ers. He had a fumble recovery, 1.5 sacks, a tackle assist, 2 solo, 1 tackle for loss, 2 QB hits. And now he's had back-to-back weeks with a sack. So, Joe, what are your thoughts on Maliek Collins, currently rostered in 6% of leagues?
Yeah, I do think there is potential for him, and you mentioned the uptick in playing time that he's going to see because of Javon Hargrave being out. I mean, he did have the benefit of playing the New England Patriots offensive line this past week, which he definitely took advantage, got the 1.5 sacks. Even the Rams are battered and got the sack. So just wonder how much of that, as far as him being able to get the sacks, was based on matchup. But I mean, he's got the Cardinals coming up, which I think there's opportunities for him to get Kyler Murray. And then after that, he's got Seattle, which their offensive line doesn't look too good. The Detroit Lions were really pressuring him. So I do think he's an interesting ad. Probably, somewhere probably around the 3% mark, I think.
Yeah, I think it sounds about right. We're going to be talking about a few players here that fit this mold of replacing starters who got injured. Maliek Collins, played 75% of the snaps. I think in defensive tackle required leagues, it may actually spend up a little bit more. The defensive tackle position can be a tough one to come by. And I feel like Collins is the guy you could probably start throughout the year, especially if you're in defensive tackle required leagues where you're starting at least 2 guys. He to me is a starter. I mean, Givens also looks pretty good in limited action, and he has shown in the past that he could be good. But I like Collins better. Guy's always been kind of a productive interior defensive lineman. Do I think he'd be a good ad?
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty solid with the Texans, who they, obviously traded him over to the 49ers.
All right, so let's bring up the Joe Special. That's right, linebacker of the Denver Broncos, Justin Strnad. He is taking over for linebacker Alex Singleton. This is the theme for this IDP Waiver Wire episode. So, Joe, you're pretty excited about this guy. How much you spent up for Strnad?
Yeah, I don't think I'd go crazy for him. But I do think, maybe somewhere 3 to 5% mark for him. First game, he played 77% of the snaps on defense. He was able to get a sack. And honestly, that's one of the intriguing parts is just the fact that Vance Joseph has got a really aggressive defense. Strnad's a really athletic player with a lot of speed, taking over for Alex Singleton, who they lost for the, whole year with a torn ACL. But I just think these creative blitz packages, he's going to have opportunities to get sacks, maybe some fumbles. Honestly, it's really him and Cody Barton going forward. I know they signed a couple of veteran players, but they don't know the system. And Strnad, even though he's been hurt, has been around, the team and the Vance Joseph system more than those guys.
Yeah, see, I would wait a week on this guy for me personally. I think the guy I want is Cody Barton. I don't know how rostered he'd be in the leagues that you play in, because he's a guy who has been a name in the past. And although he hasn't been great by any means, I think now he could be really good because he'll have a pretty decent uptick in playing time and opportunities now that Singleton is gone. Because Singleton was the guy there, although, depending on how good you think he was, he got tackled, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Singleton was an absolute tackle machine. I feel like Barton's almost a similar type of player that, like, he's going to get the tackles, but I just more so like Strnad's, upside for the sacks. But I mean, Cody Barton, he got 10 total tackles in this game. He played 100% of the snaps. He's now the green dot for the linebacker position.
Yeah, and he's rostered in 57% of leagues, so I thought for sure he would definitely be more rostered. Let's talk about another injury replacement linebacker, and that's Ventrell Miller of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Foye Oluokun is going to be going on IR with plantar fasciitis, and I'll be honest, I mean, who even knows when he comes back? I mean, I know they're talking maybe the minimum stay, but the Jaguars are 0-4. This team is cycling down the drain here. Oluokun is a part of their makeup as a team. Do they really want to put this guy in harm's way? Or is the season lost for them? I don't know. I mean, you already had people in the press asking Doug Peterson, is his job safe? So I don't know. Things are not looking good in Jacksonville. But Ventrell Miller now is stepping up, and he had 8 solo tackles, 3 assisted, and 1 tackle for loss. So, Joe, what are your thoughts on Ventrell Miller?
Yeah, I mean, like the production the last couple of weeks here, you mentioned it with more, increase in opportunity there at the linebacker position. It'd be nice if we knew if it was how long Oluokun would be out for, but I mean, at least minimum you get 4 games. So I do think the guy's worth adding. I mean, we just see the linebacker position for the Jaguars always seems to be fantasy relevant and, a good move. So I probably, I think he's probably, 3 to 5%, I'd say for him to just interesting ad, and hopefully you might get him longer than those 4 games.
Yeah, I think that's about the same. I think most in the IDP community will probably have their sights for Chad Muma because, coming out of, I think it was Wyoming, there was a lot of buzz about him. It was kind of an odd selection for the Jaguars, in my opinion. I think you agreed when they drafted Devin Lloyd in the first round, traded up to get him, and then later on drafted Muma, I think, in the 3rd or 4th. It was like, what are you doing? You already drafted an off-ball linebacker. Why are you drafting the 2nd? And then you signed Foye Oluokun in free agency.
Right.
Muma ended up playing 95% of snaps, 71 snaps. Ventrell Miller played 63, 81% of the snaps. So, 84%. So, I mean, pretty close, right? I mean, the stats would tell you Ventrell Miller. I don't know if the tape would show you Muma, but maybe he didn't get the opportunities. But Muma is actually rostered only 11% of leagues, so maybe people would rather go Muma. I think I'd rather go Ventrell Miller just based on what I saw. But I wouldn't blame you if you feel like Muma is the better choice.
Yeah, I probably lean Miller too. Like honestly, I haven't really been that impressed with Chad Muma. Like you said, he had a ton of buzz coming out of Wyoming, but we just really haven't seen a lot of production out of him. I know he's had limited opportunities, obviously, with Devin Lloyd and Foye Oluokun really taking the, large portion of the workload there.
So last player we're going to be talking about is safety Ji'Ayir Brown of the San Francisco 49ers. Had a good week this last week, had 5 solo tackles, 3 assisted, 2 tackles for loss, and a pass deflection. In our leagues, Joe, pass deflections mean quite a bit. In others, maybe he didn't perform as well. He's rostered in around 18% of leagues. So, Joe, what are your thoughts on Ji'Ayir Brown?
Yeah, I do think he's an interesting player. I mean, he's had, back-to-back 20-plus points weeks in our league, and I know you like this player a lot since you have him in our Dynasty League. But, yeah, I think he's definitely worth an ad. I don't know if I'd go crazy for him. Probably somewhere, 0 to 3%, just because I do think that largely, at least in our league, like if you have the big play like our league and pass deflections, interceptions are weighted higher, I think his ball skills will make him a good high upside. But if you're in a league that doesn't necessarily, and credits more for tackles, that's where he doesn't always blow you away with the tackle numbers. But if you're in the big play, I think he's worth a shot.
Yeah, in DB leagues, maybe he isn't as interesting, but in our league, where we got a full defense, you're starting 2 corners, 2 safeties. He's a guy who I think is very interesting. I think that 5% sounds about right. He is a ball hawk. That's what he's known for. So, if he can get those interceptions, that's going to help a lot. And at the end of the day, he played 100% of the snaps. Talanoa Hufanga still isn't right. I don't believe he's played at all yet this season. So it's really, he and Mustafa, who are the 2 safeties in the back end. So I would say, from what I can tell, he's continuing to get, good looks, good opportunities. So I like Ji'Ayir Brown. I think he's definitely worth a roster spot. And I think you could definitely, consider starting him, maybe more of a streamer, but he's played well enough to definitely consider that.
And I think, that Niners being able to get them being able to watch him, last year when he did take over for Hufanga, and just giving them the confidence that the fact that he could play. But Hufanga has played in a game.
He did.
It was against the Rams he played, but that's the only game he's played. Seems like he, injured his ankle, so now he's dealing with another injury. So that's kind of also led to Brown being on the field more as well.
Yeah, guy can't stay healthy at this point. And honestly, his matchups are kind of interesting. I mean, he's got Kyler Murray, then he's got Geno Smith, and he's got Mahomes. Mahomes seems to be throwing a pick every game. He's throwing the most picks out of anybody these days. So he could have some opportunities for some interceptions in the next few weeks.
Yeah, that was interesting. The fact that Patrick Mahomes is up there with the player who's thrown like the most interception-worthy passes.
Not good. Not good for the reigning Super Bowl champion. But sure, they'll probably figure it out probably by week 16, 17 and ride the wave.
Yeah, but hey, for the IDP community, let's take advantage of that and hopefully play some of your DBs against Mahomes, and hopefully they can get their hands on a ball. Especially
if you're Justin Simmons. Now, that already happened, but
no, but hey, man, Paulson Adebo this week.
Hey, there you go. So that does it for our Week 5 IDP Waiver Wire ads. We've been doing IDP Waiver Wire episodes all throughout the season. So if you want to check them out, they may still be relevant out there. Those players could be there. Check Week 4, Week 3, Week 2. You never know. Maybe people didn't, pick up those players. You still can. And we'll be doing them the rest of the way for the rest of the season. So you're not going to miss that. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time.